Thanks for sticking with us for this final segment of Broncos Beat. You guys, it's a slightly shorter week for the Denver Broncos, who will host the Buffalo Bills this Saturday at 2:30 Mountain Time. But hopefully this most recent win over the Panthers will help them in their preparation, as they seem to have really found a winning recipe. We all know that this is a very good Bills team, but what about this Broncos' most recent outing gives you some hope that they can pull off an upset at home over the Bills?
I look at what Denver did just offensively and starting to feel themselves a little bit with Drew Lock and being able to throw the football, that maybe they can challenge the Buffalo Bills in that regard. I think you also have to look at how Buffalo has played recently and some of the games I think that they built up. The Steelers game obviously was a game that they had circled on their schedule, but even the San Francisco game the week before, like, they've been playing at this high level, that there is that potential maybe now to look at Denver and say, well, you know, they're a little bit beneath us. And I think Denver has too much talent for anyone to think that, and I think that's something that could play into the cards in the hands of the Denver Broncos, James.
Yeah, I think, Mike, the biggest thing to me that jumps out is kind of that last part you made. I think the Saints did that going into Philadelphia, and that could be possibly something that happens here. But the problem with that with the Bills is, and I think this is what Denver's getting to, I'm a huge Sean McDermott fan. And I think the culture that they have built in Buffalo in his time there is something that the Broncos can use as a blueprint. And I think they're just a little bit behind Buffalo in terms of putting that together. Cecil, I think the one thing that has stood out to me this entire season for the Denver Broncos is insert name here on defense. Bring guy off the practice squad. Bring Will Parks in a week notice is in the game. And he finds ways to continue to have guys play hard, play tough, play good, strong defense, which has confused some young quarterbacks. Josh Allen's playing great, but they've had their moments where they have confused signal callers at times, and that's something that they're going to need to be able to do on Saturday, not Sunday.
Yeah, on Saturday, we know the problem's not on defense. It's on offense, run the ball, and it's about the intent of running the ball. Everyone thinks like, well, if you don't have 100 yards, you didn't have a good game. No. You have to have the intent of doing that, even if it's 3 yards a carry, because that opens things up and protects your young quarterback. That opens up play action passing. They're going to bite on it more if you're running the ball. And again, the intent of running the ball. If Melvin Gordon doesn't get 100 yards, whatever, like, okay, don't worry about that. Keep attacking on the ground, settle your young quarterback down, and go for that win.
Just real quick, that I think the chess match between Fangio and Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator for the Bills, is going to be a fascinating one, because it seems as if, especially over the last 6 weeks, Daboll's pulled the right lever every single time.
Well, the matchup that everyone is going to be talking about this week, Josh Allen versus Drew Lock. You guys, Sunday up against the Panthers, Lock was able to silence a lot of doubters, but there's still a group of people here in Broncos country that are kind of upset that the Broncos didn't take the Wyoming product at number 5 back in 2018. So what do we need to see from Lock this week in order to silence those doubters as well?
Ask those two people. Ask all those people. It might have been two.
Or the two.
About 2 years ago about what they were saying about Josh Allen and what they were saying about him in his first 2 seasons, where he was having the lowest completion percentage in all of football among starting quarterbacks. Yeah, it's easy to say that now in year 3 when he's playing at, as Mike Tomlin said after the game last night, an MVP caliber player. I just think Drew Lock needs to continue to have a growth like we've seen Josh Allen have. I think, Cecil, we realize, and I said this earlier, it doesn't happen overnight. And a lot of people's perceptions are skewed because we've seen Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson do it at the blink of a hat. So what I do think we need from Drew Lock is to have another game where he feels like he's composed, in control, decisive, and they're balanced. As Cecil mentioned, the running game, if they continue to stay balanced and he can pick his spots the way that he did last Sunday, I think that puts him in a better position to succeed.
And we have to remember the Broncos had a couple of things with Josh Allen. One, they coached him at the Senior Bowl. So there's your Senior Bowl reference. We'll knock that off the show in your Broncos Beat bingo. They also didn't have many people at his pro day. They made a decision pretty quick. There was more people from the fan at Josh Allen's pro day in Laramie than there was from the Broncos.
Shameless plug by Cecil.
Well, hey, it was a fantastic time. It is a fantastic young quarterback. And we have to realize, like, he's been asked to do a lot more early on in his career. We can't forget about almost 700 yards rushing in his first season. So, okay, you look at how Josh Allen's been able to develop as a passer. I don't want Drew Lock to think he's against Josh Allen. He will be in the minds of some in the fan base. This is the biggest story all week. But don't think you've got to look better than Josh Allen. Stay within yourself. Stay within the game plan And that's how Drew Lock can best help this team get that win.
Yeah, it's a tremendous challenge for him in that regard because the secondary for the Bills is pretty doggone good, led by Tre'Davious White, but those two safeties, Hyde and Poyer, are outstanding.
Okay, really quick, you guys, some of Allen's weapons that are going to make this Bills offense so difficult to go up against on Saturday. Cease?
I love Devin Singletary. Loved him at FAU. He's all about yards after contact. And oh yeah, they got some Zach Moss guy who reminded me of young Marshawn Lynch when he was in college at Utah.
I think they have something on every level. I think they have. I mean, you look at like Dawson Knox is not a household name, but then if you put him on the field with Cole Beasley, and then let's just talk about Stephon Diggs, who just now has found his footing in a spot to where the Bills brass believes, Mike, he is unbelievably comfortable and can be himself in the culture that I mentioned that Sean McDermott has created. He is flourishing with his relationship with Josh Allen.
Yeah, he and Josh playing video games together at all hours of the night. You know, they've really made a great connection. But I love Cole Beasley. I think he's someone who uncovers so very quickly, and it's sort of goes back to all the years I've covered the Patriots, where you've had the Welkers and the Edelmans and the Troy Browns, guys that get open quick, and that's such a benefit for a developing quarterback to have a guy like that. Cole Beasley, I think, has been clutch for that football team.
Well, sadly, that's all the time we have for this week's edition of Broncos Beat. For Mike Giardi, James Palmer, and Cecil Lammey, I'm Alexis Perry. We'll see you next Monday.